And we are live, I think, as long as the gods of the internet allow. Had a devil of a time getting connected this morning. Let's tell my phone do not disturb. Sorry. Been eating salty snacks and my throat is reacting. Hello, borrowed angel. Ah, it's a cold and foggy morning in beautiful downtown Crestline in the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California's Inland Empire. And now that I've actually managed to go live, I realize that my coffee and water are both empty. So hang in there. I'm not going away. I'm just getting coffee and water. Oh, I missed you too, borrowed angel. But I usually come on just once a week. I might make it more often. This morning I did record a brief message saying that I had internet problems on my phone and it's still trying to upload it. Hang in there. I get my water and then I'll go back when the tea kettle calls me to make instant coffee. Oh Lord, won't you give me a good kitty cat? A cat so fat and they get their shot. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a good kitty cat? Oh Lordy. Skinnamarink, dinky dink, skinnamarink, doo. Oh, kitty cat. Oh, what a mess. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a good kitty cat? No such thing, is there, Patches? Patches and Tutu have taken over Tora's heating pad, haven't you guys? Tora is not amused. I got Tora her own heating pad so she would let me have mine that I sit on. They don't even seem to mind that it's turned itself off, which it does every half hour. Quite annoying. The safety measure could at least go for a whole hour, but no. They're saving me from what? Being warm? Freeman is here. Let's hope that my connection stays. Okay, that's a cat trying to claw her way out through the door. They never understand that it can't be done. Hi, Witta. Oh, Lord. Um, what is it that Captain Kirk always says? Oh, engage. I'm waiting for the water to boil. My kitchen counter is a mess. Ah, Jason is here. Cave is Jason. His daughter changed his screen name and he's stuck with it. Ugh. That always makes me think of Kava, and I forget what Kava is. It's a brand name of something. Oh, it's Picard who says that? What? Well, what does Captain Kirk say? if he doesn't say engage. Oh, warp 3? Apparently warp 3 is the fastest one that's safe. So the Enterprise won't fall apart into a billion pieces. But of course, they're always pushing it to warp 6 or warp 9. I tried and tried an hour ago, and I could not get a decent internet signal. Camera. See, to me, the picture is backward. If I wanted the picture to move to the right, I move the camera to the left, because I'm looking like, not at a mirror image, at my actual image. So I put up my right hand and I see it on the left because I'm seeing what you see. Oh, now they have transwarp. Freeman, I quit watching Star Trek before The Next Generation ended. Oh, Borrowed Angel, my internet could be coming and going too. Well, I was going to read Letter from Birmingham Jail by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., written in August of 1963. Oh, you saw me in a documentary. Which one? Let me go get my coffee. Hi there, sister. Hi there, sweetie. Oh boy, coffee and water. Well, anyway, so President Kennedy was still alive when MLK wrote that letter. My favorite documentary, at the moment at least, is called The Penultimate Truth About Philip K. Dick. And once again, he had some real experiences, but he also embellished, exaggerated, and made stuff up. Here's a link to the letter from Birmingham jail. This man was willing to go to jail for what he believed. And he was not a perfect man by any means, cheated on his wife all the time. But even so, okay, there's a little intro written by someone else from the Birmingham jail where he was imprisoned as a participant in nonviolent demonstrations against segregation, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in longhand the letter which follows. It was his response to a public statement of concern and caution issued by 8 white religious leaders of the South. Dr. King, who was born in 1929, did his undergraduate work at Morehouse College, attended the Integrated Crozer Theological Seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania, one of 6 black pupils among 100 students, and the president of his class, and won a fellowship to Boston University for his PhD. And by the way, President Kennedy called the officials of Birmingham and told them to let that man out of jail. So here's what MLK said, and let me check back at the chat. Oh, we got Don Vernon. Good morning and welcome. Welcome, everyone. All right. Letter from Birmingham Jail, August 1963. Dr. King wrote, while confined here in the Birmingham City Jail, I came across your recent statement calling our present activities, quote, unwise and untimely, end quote. So this is his letter to some white clergymen, religious leaders of the South. And King goes on, seldom, if ever, do I pause to answer criticism of my work and ideas. If I sought to answer all of the criticisms that cross my desks, my secretaries would be engaged in little else in the course of the day, and I would have no time for constructive work. But since I feel that you are men of genuine goodwill and your criticisms are sincerely set forth, I would like to answer your statement in what I hope will be patient and reasonable terms. Ah, time to pause, light a cigarette, get a sip of coffee, check the chat room. Oh, Athens Neo, Scotland. Yeah, it's cold here on my mountain too. It's about, well, it isn't that cold. It's about 40 degrees according to my computer. That's Fahrenheit, like 8 degrees above freezing. It feels more like 35 or even 32, which is freezing. Ditches here. I have a lot of Scottish ancestry, Welsh, Scots, and Irish, according to Ancestry. But Mom's uncle went back to speaking Gaelic as he was dying, so nobody could understand him. It wasn't just his Scottish brogue, it was the Gaelic. I wonder about the gas company. Are they restricting the flow, reducing the flow of gas into my home, or using a cheaper, less efficient uh, fuel, or both, because my heater barely feels warm and I have it on full blast, and my gas stove doesn't get, the flames don't get as high as they used to. I think the gas company's cheating us, restricting the rate of flow and using cheap crap. Don says it's been windy for 2 days and rainy last night and cold again today. Dropped 20 degrees in one day. Wow. Well, that happens here on the mountain. Oh, really? The governor of New York wants to freeze the bank accounts of truckers who protested? Ditch thinks he's 9% Scots, but he just calls himself an American mutt. I'm supposed to be 1/4 Dutch, but all they find in my ancestry is Danish, and not much of it, like 3%. And that's actually from my English ancestors. They were actually Vikings from the south of France, but they married English, English women and got diluted. So I have almost as much English as Celtic. Apparently, the Scots and Irish are not only closely related, but in ancient times, the Irish actually, some of them left Ireland and settled in Scotland. So I guess the lowland Scots are probably more Irish than Scottish Scots. Uh, Athens Neo's dad was Greek. I hate being old. I feel really young until I get up out of Great Granny's rocking chair. Ditch is trying to get a driver's license. Oh man, are you in California too? I can't escape. The state is so screwed up that I'm stuck. Oh, Freeman likes those waffle cookies from Netherlands. I don't know. I've gotten fond of uh, Pfefferkuchen, ginger cookies rolled in powdered sugar. I think you call it icing sugar in England or Europe. Ditch has ditch ancestry. Good point. I'm a Busby by birth. There's a town in Scotland called Busby, by the way. They were winemakers, and the winery where they sold the wine, they'd have a bush growing by their door as sort of a sign, we sell wine here. So they were by the bush, Bushby, Busby. Oh, Baltimore's a tax prison, eh? California is just plain freaking weird. Well, in the summer, I wear my Levi's and t-shirts. If it's a little chilly, I'll put on a sweater, usually after dark. Uh, anyway, I thought about Texas Freeman, but it'd have to be North Texas. I don't want anything to do with hurricanes, and we all know what happened to Galveston years ago. Besides, I need to be on a mountain. God told me to live on a mountain. Let's get back to Dr. King's letter because I think it's relevant to things going on today. So he writes, this is Martin Luther King Jr. In August 1963, I think I should give the reason for my being in Birmingham, since you have been influenced by the argument of, quote, outsiders coming in, end quote. So this is me talking. Yeah, he's an insurgent of a horror. Kind of like truckers going to New York to protest. Back to Dr. King. Where is it? I have the honor of serving as president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, an organization operating in every southern state with headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. We have some 85 affiliate organizations all across the South, one being the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights. Whenever necessary and possible, we share staff, educational, and financial resources with our affiliates. Several months ago, our local affiliate here in Birmingham, by the way, that's Alabama. Okay, back to Dr. King, invited us to be on call to engage in a nonviolent direct action program if such were deemed necessary. We readily consented, and when the hour came, we lived up to our promises. So I am here, along with several members of my staff, because we were invited here. I am here because I have basic organizational ties here. Beyond that, I am in Birmingham because injustice is here. Just as the 8th century prophets left their little villages and carried their, quote, thus saith the Lord, end quote, far beyond the boundaries of their hometowns, and just as the Apostle Paul left his little village of Tarsus and carried the gospel of Jesus Christ to practically every hamlet and city of the Greco-Roman world, I too am compelled to carry the gospel of freedom beyond my particular hometown. Like Paul, I must constantly respond to the Macedonian call for aid. You see how he wove in his knowledge of the Bible, the New Testament? Oh dear. Ditch printed out a Playboy on his mom's printer. It printed out the centerfolds, and she asked, "Why are you using my printer for pornography?" And Dawn says, "It's for educational purposes, Mom. Jeez." And Ditch told his mom, "It's just for the articles, I swear." Yeah, okay. It was what Phil had in Playboy was a short story, the one where the vending machine forced the guy to buy a hamburger. The exit door leads in. Okay, back to Dr. King. I'm skipping 2 paragraphs. I gave you the link so you can find it if you need to. And here he says, in any nonviolent campaign, there are 4 basic steps. Collection of the facts to determine whether injustices are alive, negotiation, self-purification, and direct action. We have gone through all of these steps in Birmingham. There can be no gainsaying of the fact that racial injustice engulfs this community. Birmingham is probably the most thoroughly segregated city in the United States. Its ugly record of police brutality is known in every section of this country. Its unjust treatment of Negroes in the courts is a notorious reality. There have been more unsolved bombings of Negro homes and churches in Birmingham than in any other city in this nation. These are the hard, brutal, and unbelievable facts. On the basis of them, Negro leaders sought to negotiate with the city fathers, but the political leaders consistently refused to engage in good faith negotiation. And it goes on and on and on, but that's all I'm going to read to you today. Uh, well, anyway, you can read the whole thing for yourself. The exit door leads in. I keep forgetting the ending. I think it's the one where they test him and his refusal to rebel against authority gets him uh, kicked out of whatever the reward would have been. Uh, by the way, Google's stock took a big dip because their AI would not show white people. When asked, for example, for a picture of the founding fathers, they were all black. They didn't even show Asians or Native Americans. And people are just like, hey, wait a minute. So it was a bunch of black founding fathers who encouraged slavery and voted for it. Yeah. Robo taxis are cute, but I don't think it wasn't in We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. It was in another novel. I forget which one. Oh, Ditch thinks the robo taxi inspired that scene from the heavy metal movie. Thank you, Freeman. The robo taxi is in Now Wait for Last Year. Although I love the robo taxi in Total Recall. The one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I have not seen the remake because so many people told me not to bother. But if it turns up online for free, I might watch it. Oh, The Exit Door Leads In is an audiobook on YouTube. I'm trying to remember what. Paycheck, the movie, really had little to do with Phil's uh, short story, Paycheck. The idea that he chose to be paid with a bunch of meaningless trinkets it came from the story, and the rest is just, I don't know, awesome special effects for no real purpose. Well, I haven't bought lottery tickets lately because I figure it's a waste of money. But maybe I'll buy one next week after the storm rolls through. We're in for a huge storm. It's already foggy. There's heavy fog outside. Well, I would call it medium because I can still see the porch light across the street. I wonder. I can't tell for sure from here, but I think someone might have broken into that house. That might have been what the noise I heard last night was. Because their front porch looks odd, but it's sideways to me, so it's hard to tell. Uh, anyway, Chewy brought me cat treats, cat food, and cat litter, and Freeman sent me more cat treats last week. Oh, Ditch says his mom insists that he watch Deadpool 3 with her when it comes out. I keep hearing about Deadpool and I have never seen it. You see, I don't subscribe to anything, least of all Disney. They took down all the classic animated movies I wanted to see and even some of the live action. But someday I'm going to watch Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, even if I have to buy the DVD. Um, I don't know. Disney used to be family friendly. Now it's woke, whatever that means. Mm. Mm. Sorry, gotta have my Ritz crackers. Mm. Yeah. Well, last week I made sloppy joes. Well, what day is it? Well, it was this week. It was Monday. Well, yesterday, Wednesday, I didn't want more sloppy joes, so I got my little packet of taco sauce, taco spice, and put that in it and made it soft tacos. It works. Even with all the tomatoes and tomato sauce in the sloppy joe sauce, That just made it better taco filling. Oh, yeah. Well, Pinocchio is a strange story. Of course, the Disney movie was pretty strange, but it was, hmm, I wonder what that noise was. Either a firework or somebody dropped something very heavy. Anyway, Pinocchio was meant to teach children to be good so they could be real little children. Disney's Willy Wonka event? Oh, that was horrible. Don wants mustard and ketchup for sloppy joes. Add that to the barbecue. Well, I didn't add mustard or ketchup. I added canned potato, canned tomatoes, and tomato sauce. Um, Plenty of garlic, black pepper, freshly ground. My hair's in my face. There. Um, Onions, of course. I'll tell you that what I learned only recently, like during COVID when I was watching even more cooking shows than I watch now. Mom always chopped the onions and dropped them into the sauce and let them boil with the sauce and the pasta or rice, depending on which she was making. And that's not the way to do it. You put a little oil in the pan. I use bacon grease whenever possible. And you, on low or medium heat, you heat the onions until they turn translucent, almost see through. You can brown them, but if you let them go too brown, they burn and taste nasty. And then you add your liquid. Oh, and by the way, if you're adding real garlic, you add it when the onions are almost done because garlic doesn't take more than 1 minute. After that, it'll burn and be really nasty. A New York City restaurant refuses to ship things to California. California is probably the only state still willing to do business with New York. Well, Freeman, you could always have it shipped to yourself unless you're stuck in California too. Ooh, pastrami sandwiches. Well, I can get pastrami sandwiches. Um, Not every day, unless I go to Subway, bring it home and put it on my own bread instead of their crap. Oh, they might have rye bread now. But when I go to Stater Brothers, the local grocery chain, about once a month, they have pastrami in their deli and they have some in the packaged lunch meats. Of course, the stuff from the deli is superior. You know what pastrami is? They take corned beef and smoke it. So, in a pinch, corned beef will do, but really, pastrami's better. It's been smoked. Smoking adds such awesome flavor to meats. Oh, Ditch's Discord cult are mostly chefs or cooks, so they share recipes. Well, lately I've been using garlic powder and garlic salt because it's just easier when I want it on a grilled cheese, an open faced grilled cheese toast. You have to cook real garlic first before you use it, and it's a pain in the butt, so I just use the shaker. Freeman's stuck in Seattle and they're racing to the bottom too. At least up here on the mountain, we do not have, we have homeless, but we don't have a huge homeless problem. Yeah, Subway makes their own bread, but it's not good quality, not really. I'll tell you, the day I met Phil, well, the next morning, he offered me a pastrami sandwich, and I had never had pastrami. There I was, 18 years old, and never in my life ate pastrami or corned beef. I was hooked on that pastrami sandwich. Wow. Lots of mustard and on rye bread like it's supposed to be, with the seeds in it. I almost remember the name of the seeds. I, I should know. Oh well. Yeah, oh, I had corned beef hash out of a can. Not the same. That is not corned beef. Sorry, it's crap. It's mixed up with little bits of potato and canned. But I suppose if you cook it with a little bacon grease and add some spices, at least black pepper, not salt, God no. Corned beef and pastrami have lots of salt. Um, but yeah, you can make the canned corned beef hash okay, but Mom just tossed it in a saucepan and heated it up till it stuck to the bottom of the pan. And then it was my job to wash the pan and get all that burned on hash off of it. Yes, Ditch, I've had a Reuben once. And the thing is, I have a thing about the sauerkraut. It's basically pickled cabbage because our school cafeteria used to get it in these 5-gallon cans, put it in the cooker at 8 in the morning, and cook it till 11 to 11:30 in the afternoon, and then serve it to us. And it was nasty, and the whole town stunk. We could tell when they were serving sauerkraut because we could smell it on our way to school, and it, pardon the language, but it smelled like shit. It smelled like dog poop. But actually, the Reuben I had was very good, and I actually asked for more sauerkraut because the way they made it at the local coffee shop was really good. Oh, Don likes chipped beef with green peas on toast. Don't forget the white sauce. Um, our back in Old Town Orange in Orange County, There was a drugstore that also served, it had like a soda fountain and cafeteria style food, and they would serve SOS for breakfast. They didn't dare say the whole name, but it's something on a shingle. Toast and the chipped beef in white sauce. It's only recently that I learned how to make a stinking white sauce. I had no clue. You take some butter, and they say an equal amount of flour, but I'll do like 3 tablespoons of butter and only 2 tablespoons of flour because, hey, it's butter. Chef Jean Pierre would approve. And you heat it and mix it until the flour and butter are mixed together and start looking kind of like a dough. And then you add your milk. Now, one chef says add hot milk, heat your milk first. But another chef, also on YouTube, says you'll get fewer lumps if you add cold milk and keep whisking or stirring. Now, me, if it's a good steel pan and not non-stick, I'll use a fork. Forks work for all sorts of things. Anyway, then you add your milk after the flour and butter mixture is cooked a little bit. I always thought you just heated some milk and poured in some flour. No wonder my sauces sucked. Except for gravy. I made good gravy and thickened it with cornstarch. You're supposed to mix the cornstarch with water first, cold water. Now, white sauce, I'm trying to remember what the Italians call the sauce. It's actually a French sauce, so it's what the French call it. Well, whatever it is, you can turn the white sauce into another sauce. I think it's called béarnaise when you add cheese. Oh, Freeman, he says if the link looks suspicious, use the library's computer to click on it. They do have better, or should have better, virus and malware protection than most. Cornflakes and blueberries. I don't consider blueberries food. They're barely edible, and they aren't blue, they're purple. Of course, the fake blueberries in the store bought blueberry muffins aren't even blueberries. They're artificially flavored gelatin or something like gelatin. Anyway, I once was eating fruit from one of those big fruit plates that they had in the office at my college for everyone to snack from. And I said, these grapes taste funny. I don't think I like them. And the secretary looked at me and said, well, those are blueberries. And I said, no wonder I don't like them. Freeman likes red Italian tomato sauce. Okay. Well, some things are better in white sauce, like cream chipped beef on toast, or like frozen peas. You can keep your canned peas. Yuck. They've turned them into something disgusting. Unless you toss them in a pot of soup, then nobody can tell. But Frozen green peas in a white sauce are to die for. And add more butter. Just keep adding butter to the sauce. Chef Jean Pierre is right about butter. It's the food of the gods. I'm trying to read the chat. Oh, I like a good spaghetti sauce well enough. I just didn't like the way Mom made it. And of course, we grew up chopping hot dogs into small pieces and dropping them into canned Franco American spaghetti because that's what we had. And then I'd heat up some creamed corn. I really preferred whole kernels, not creamed, but that's what we had. If we had any food. I don't know how many times Mom didn't have money for food, but she never ran out of alcohol, coffee, or cigarettes. When my son was young and I was a poor college student, I went without coffee and cigarettes to provide for my son. I didn't drink alcohol anyway. Couldn't afford to be drunk in any case. I did try a bottle of Heineken beer once. Didn't like it, couldn't drink it. So I'm really into food now that I've discovered that it doesn't have to be crap. Yeah, Phil warned us about AI. It's like, I'll have a hamburger. No, I changed my mind. I want something else. Sorry, you bought a hamburger. And apparently he couldn't take the hamburger and something else. Mom mostly drank wine. She'd get Thunderbird or Gallo Port. They were fortified wines. They had more alcohol than good wine because it was added. And sometimes she drank rot gut whiskey, really cheap, nasty whiskey. But mostly, especially toward the end, she drank vodka. And she even put it in her coffee. Now, she put actual milk in her coffee. And the vodka would curdle it, and she didn't care. She had to keep vodka next to her bed so she could get a drink before she got up. Thunderbird? Yeah, that was a nasty wine. I tried some pear ripple once. Someone gave it to me for free. And strawberry Boone's Farm. They're kind of like wine, but they're really made with some fruit juice and vodka. Ugh. Ditch is drinking vodka mixed with Mountain Dew. So the caffeine in the Mountain Dew will keep you awake while you're drunk from the vodka. A hillbilly speedball, huh? Oh, I don't drink vodka. I have a bottle somewhere because I bought it for some recipe that I was cooking. I recall, it didn't turn out well. Something a la vodka. Pasta a la vodka, I guess. Ditch is trademarking the hillbilly speedball. Once in a while, I put a little peach schnapps in my orange juice. And peach schnapps has the same alcohol content as vanilla extract. So a teaspoon, maybe a whole tablespoon, is 8 or 12 ounces of orange juice. Not bad. It isn't even going to give me a buzz. It just tastes good. Yeah, well, everybody around here has Popov vodka in a plastic bottle. Mine is Seagram's in a glass bottle. I drink so rarely that there's no point in going cheap. Well, I have some creme de menthe, the minty flavored liqueur. If you mix it with ice cream, you've in a blender, and then add a little cream too. You have you almost have a grasshopper, a peppermint flavored drink, but you're also supposed to add creme de coco or creme de cacao. It's a chocolate flavored liqueur, and I can't find it anywhere. So someday I'll open the creme de menthe and buy some vanilla ice cream and some cream and make a grasshopper without the cocoa. Wonder if I could get away with a teaspoon of cocoa powder. It says never again, no Smirnoff. No cheap crap. Don says he got a couple Long Islands at the bar 2 days in a row, and they put so much cheap vodka in each drink. He had like mild delirium tremors come Sunday night, lying in bed, seeing ghosts. That was rough. By the way, if you're laying in bed, where's the eggs? It's lying. Uh, the crazy talking heads on the media are getting rid of the past tense except where it's incorrect. Lay is the past tense of lie, as in lie in bed. But they should say the boat sank, but they keep saying it sunk. It's sink today, sank yesterday, and has sunk, meaning the sinking is complete. All done. Oh, Ditch linked somebody's show on Discord. Oh, I guess mine. I've been on for an hour and said pretty much nothing except food to get you hungry. Yeah, Shakespeare wrote, "Lay on, Macduff." In other words, Macbeth was telling Macbeth was telling Macduff, "Pick up your sword and start hitting me." Lay on. And most people say lead on because that's what it means in modern English. Freeman wants to talk about the Penultimate Truth documentary for a moment. He wants to know about Joan. Joan dumped Phil when they got back from France. He didn't treat her well. No surprise. She was a little sick from air sickness on the flight over, 12 hours on a jet. Uh, and he had no sympathy. I haven't heard the details, so I can't tell you more than that. But when he gave his speech, she thought he was nuts. Felt sorry for the audience for having to listen to that. Oh, they think I'm Ditch's grandma. No, I'm not grandma, I'm granny. Just like the Beverly Hillbillies with a rocking chair. Of course, she had a double barrel shotgun, and I don't have a gun. But other than that, I'm granny. Yeah, and Macbeth says, because he's got this magic charm from the three witches. No man born of woman can harm you. I'm paraphrasing, not quoting. And Macduff says, I was not born of woman, I was from my mother's womb untimely ripped. Caesarean. And back in those days, the Caesarean birth killed the mother. No, I don't want a shotgun, Freeman. I'll tell you, in California, it's practically a crime to own a gun. So I'll stick with my disposable fire extinguisher. Well, who knows? Phil really blew it when they took him to dinner in France, in Metz. He knew that historically that area had sometimes been German and sometimes been French. So he figured the people there would speak both French and German, and he tried to order food at the restaurant speaking German. Well, his German was horrible. First off, it might have been an insult to the French waiter that he tried to speak German, and second, uh, he had learned basically a dialect of German from a neighbor who was supposedly a native speaker, but had been in the U.S. so long that he really spoke English mostly. Well, after that, the waiter refused to understand anything Phil said, and the other people at the table had to place his order for him. Phil thought the waiter was rude, but hey, Phil was being rude. It isn't that hard to learn a couple French words like s'il vous plaît for please and merci for thank you. You don't have to show off speaking basically a Bavarian dialect of German from 1920. Metz is near the border between Germany and France. It's in the wine country. I always blank on what they call that region. The wine country that France and Germany fought over. Before there was a Germany, it was various duchies who spoke German. Before that asshole, the Kaiser, united all the most of the German speaking countries in the late 1800s, which eventually led to World War I because some idiot shot the Archduke dead in, I've forgotten where they were. It wasn't Kosovo, it was, oh well, Eastern Europe anyway. Serbia, thank you, Ditch. Oh, the French can get really nasty when you mispronounce French. Well, it's hard to mispronounce merci and s'il vous plaît. I still remember a friend asked, that's it, Alsace-Lorraine. Thank you, Freeman. The wine country of France. Um, what was I saying? Oh, someone was asking me, what do the words of that Beatles song mean? You know, Michel, Ma Belle. And they had listened to the whole song more than once. I said, well, it means what they sing in English right afterward. Oh, so Lasney's a very good author. No, Bismarck was military general who conducted war for Kaiser Wilhelm Freeman. That's why they named that battleship after Bismarck. The Kaiser was actually a wimpy simp, but he wanted to rule the world. Shut up, Freeman. I'm not mispronouncing Michel or Mabel. So there. Sont des mots qui vont très bien ensemble. If the Beatles can do it, I can do it. Do you know that they sucked on purpose when they first started out? And when they started making money, they took music lessons. And Paul never learned to write or read music. So there. Yes, I said simp. A wimp and a simp. They say that he had a withered arm, but I don't know whether that was true. The Kaiser, Wilhelm, and then his son Wilhelm II was kind of a warmonger too. They'll have to translate Chuck Berry's "My Ding-a-Ling." I don't know how he got away with that in the 1950s. Jeez. Chuck Berry was really pushing the envelope. Yeah, I'm not a big Beatles song. There's a couple songs I think are good, but mostly I like George Harrison, and John and Paul refused to record George's songs, and I love his songs. Actually, World War I and II were one big war with a 10-year truce. My French ain't perfect, but what do you want? My German's much better, and my English is even better. But it's American English, so the British make fun of me. They actually think I don't know the difference between what they call football and American football. Well, we call their football soccer. Go figure. And all I really know about soccer is Pele. He's probably dead by now, but he was a big soccer star back in the dark ages. And I probably got his name wrong, but I think it was Pele. Argentina, I believe. Oh, my sweet Lord is gorgeous, Freeman. George Harrison could write, sing, and play. Ditch speaks Cajun French. The French hate it. Um, we once knew some people from Quebec. Phil gave them a copy of one of the French translations of his book, and they said, well, we can read most of it, but we have to use a dictionary for some of the words because what they speak in France is not the same as what they speak in Canada. Once in a while, like I was at a farmer's market and I noticed the vendor speaking Spanish to a customer. So when I wanted to know the price, I said, "Cuantos?" And it made him happy that I knew a word in Spanish. He knew I wasn't a native speaker, but he smiled and said, "Ah, Espanol." And I wanted the littlest one, so I said, "Un poquito." And he understood what I meant, even though it was probably the wrong way to say it. Well, don't troll your teacher. That isn't nice. Yeah. Well, the British have hung on to some things like OUR on the end of a word instead of OR. But we've hung on to some weird things in American English too. Oh, yeah. Freeman calls grammar that American battle language. Well, I've come to the conclusion that grammar and spelling are deliberately difficult. We've tried to impose Latin grammar on English on both sides of the pond, and it just doesn't work. But some things ought to be set in stone. For example, you lie in bed and the boat sank. Yesterday you lay in bed. Today you lie in bed, and tomorrow you will lie in bed. Because if you lay in bed, I want the eggs. Chickens lay, people lie. And it's unfortunate that it sounds the same as prevarication, telling a lie. And I'm losing respect for people who use fancy words like prevarication when there's a perfectly good English word like lie or tell a lie. What if it's a waterbed? I don't know. I guess you'll be laying fish eggs. Erroneous and obfuscation, Don and Freeman. Yeah. Um, I'm going to have to learn how to say, I don't recall. So that if I'm ever accused of something bad, I can say, I don't recall. Kind of like that guy on the witness stand the other day, that lawyer, obfuscating, not lying, not telling an untruth, just kind of hiding. I better check the battery on my modem. Last week it went dead on me and it shouldn't have. But you see, I put it on the charger and some cat kicked the charger off of the power strip. Well, we're okay now, but I'm going to plug it in anyway because it's down to 50%. And I'm likely to forget to plug it in if I don't do it now. There we go. Okay, what book is Don talking about? A Scrivener? Oh, Bartleby the Scrivener. Do I really have a radio personality? I think I have a face made for radio. But I don't like to hear my own voice. A voice made for voice. Okay. Well, that's what Art Bell used to say. I have a face made for radio. I'm glad you like my voice, Don. I don't know. Most people don't like to hear their own voices. Yeah, Art Bell was good, even when he was totally off the wall. I remember when a certain caller kept talking about flak helicopters. Well, here I am surrounded by Air Force bases, military air bases. Some were Marines, some were Navy, but mostly Air Force. And I'm like, well, what's so strange about that? The Air Force paints everything black, even their helicopters. They're just out practicing. Little did I know. Oh, Ditch is writing Tall Tale from the Lowest Ditch. Trademark. Okay. I haven't read any of Jim Keith. I have some, what's his name? The guy who died in his car and they said it was suicide. The Shadow People. No, the Men in Black guy. I haven't read it yet. I'm kind of scared to read that stuff. It will give me nightmares. Oh well. I've been meaning to read that book by the remote viewer. Can't remember his name. Not Russell Targ. Another guy with a Swedish sounding name. Yeah, Freeman writes good stuff. He expects me to finish it when I'm busy reading a contract over and over. So choir, Quoir, Ingo Swan, that's it. Thank you, Freeman. I have a highly sought after copy of Ingo Swan's book. Apparently, his descendants tried to kill the book and did a darn good job of it. Freeman's stories are long, with not novel length, but either novella or novelette, depending on how you define those. But they're good. Anyway, they're very interesting. So back to the contract. The contract is signed, the manuscript is sent, and they will be publishing a special edition of my surrealist novel, The Darkening of the Light, which is loosely based on conversations I had with my husband, with a lot of my own thoughts. About fusing humans with technology, and a little bit about space aliens, but not the little grays. I think I did put in a flying saucer, but the inhabitants were alien slugs. Phil's daughter Isa has his typewriter, and that's only right. What do I want with it at my age? Sure, I might have sold it for lots of money, but it was something too personal that really should go to his heirs. I gave it to my son, but he decided that Isa should have it. I like it when the writing just flows. And when I wrote The Darkening of the Light, it was like being in a trance, but manic. Just my hands kept typing things, and my brain kept filling. I'd say, "Come on, I gotta eat lunch." Nope, I got more ideas. Gotta write them down. I was up half the night, over and over. Oh, Phil's typewriter is magical, and it's a haunted object. Could be. Phil got me a typewriter. I was not allowed to touch the typewriter. And by the way, by the time I got it, it was no longer working. The carriage was moved by a cloth belt, very tightly woven cloth, almost like one of those military style belts. And it had rotted away in storage by the time I got it. Don says Jack Kerouac wrote On the Road in 2 weeks. I've heard from at least one source that On the Road is mostly made up. Oh, maybe 3 weeks. Yeah, well, Phil wrote novels in 2 weeks, but what he did was pull out old manuscripts that had been rejected and make them longer. So they were the length of a novel instead of a shorter piece for a magazine to serialize. And you'll find that many of his short stories are incorporated into novels that he wrote, especially during the time when The Man in the High Castle was nominated for a Hugo Award. Phil just knew it was going to win, and it did. He claims he wrote 6 novels in 6 weeks, but they weren't from scratch. He figured he could publish anything with a Hugo Award, somebody would buy it, and he needed money. There's a short story. All right. It's called The Rocking Horse Winner. I'm blanking on the author. Horse Winner author D.H. Lawrence. Kind of reminds me of Phil at his typewriter churning out novels as fast as he could. If you get a chance to read The Rocking Horse Winner, it's a story, it's short, by D.H. Lawrence. It's very instructive as well as entertaining. A child on a rocking horse, a toy, starts naming the winners of future horse races. Yeah. Do you know that Laura's mother, Anne, wanted Phil to quit writing and go to work in her jewelry business because you can't make a living on writing. Witta says Kerouac died in Florida. He had a home in St. Petersburg, I assume, where he last lived, and the Historical Society can't afford it, so it just stays where it is. Don't even think anyone's living in it. Don't speak ill of the dead, Freeman. I'm saying things that she said and did, but I'm not calling her what I'm thinking. But what really ended the marriage was when she got an abortion. Now, it was illegal in California at the time, so she had to go to Oregon to get her abortion. And when she came back, she had the nerve to tell Phil it would have been a boy, knowing that he wanted a son very badly. And it was all because, as Anne said in an interview, well, we just couldn't afford another child. She wanted Phil to make more money, and she thought that getting an abortion would inspire him to earn more money. Instead, it inspired him to leave her. I dropped something. Oh, it's the controller to my speakers. They're supposed to be off when I'm on live. Well, she had inherited a very expensive house and farm from her first husband, but most of the money was in trust for her daughters from her first marriage. And I forget whether there were 2 or 3. But of course, there was nothing for Laura until Phil died, which isn't exactly true. Anne asked Phil to send $7,500 to buy a car for Laura, and Laura says she never saw the money. She had to pay her mom for the car in monthly payments. And then he sent 21,000 for Laura's tuition at Stanford University as a freshman. And she never saw that money either. Laura was working and going to school and trying to join a sorority because her mother wanted her to. And Anne just kept the money. So, yeah, I have no respect for her. Someday I'll read her book, but right now it's too painful. I managed to get a paperback of it for $10. There was no way I was going to pay $100 for the hardcover. Yeah, my mother wanted Dad to earn more money. She even contacted recruiters to try to get him to work for some big corporation and make a ton of money. Oh, Witta says, hey, Kerouac's home was purchased and the new owners are letting their home open to the public, the Jack Kerouac's home. Good. Well, my mother, talk about mixed messages, she'd say, I love you, but I don't like you. Anyway, Nancy is a very nice lady. She left Phil, and I don't know the backstory because I heard only Phil's side, and he said, well, she was just crazy. He didn't really hold it against Nancy, so why should I? She's a very nice lady. Cleo, I don't know much about her, but I do know that Anne deliberately stole Phil. The first wife, Phil told 3 different stories, and she ain't talking. Well, she's passed away now, but she remarried and lived a very private life. And I only know that because there was an obituary, and it didn't even mention Phil. But someone dug up her obituary. Me? Well, I could not let Phil teach our son to treat women the way he was treating me. Telling his friends how awful I was right in front of me. And then dating other women. And he thought that was okay as long as he didn't have sex with them. And I was like, well, when you take me to dinner and a movie, we'll consider having sex. He could be an asshole. But I wasn't perfect. And he did a lot of good for me. For example, he found out I didn't have a good winter coat. And even in California, the winters can be pretty cold, in the 30s, at least as cold as 40 Fahrenheit. He bought me 2 coats, took me to Burlington Coat Factory, and bought me 2 good winter coats. First time I ever had a good winter coat, and he got me 2 of them. He got me a really nice guitar. It was not a major brand. It was all Guitar Center brand, but it was nice, and I liked it. An acoustic guitar encouraged me to write. Oh, God, something's tickling me. Must be my hair, but I can't find it. Or maybe it's just a nerve thing. Oh well. By the way, this thing on my lip is just a scar. It is not painful, but sometimes it itches. Now the side of my nose is tickled, and there's nothing there. I'm pretty sure I got all my hair off of it. That's what it usually is. Anyway, Phil did a lot of good things too. And he introduced me to all kinds of music, from Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix to Wagner and a bunch of Italian opera composers like Così fan tutti. Women are all alike. I'm sure that's not a literal translation. Fan would be women and tutti would be all but Così. I don't think it means alike, but it could. Phil was gregarious. He liked to be surrounded by people, and he'd have discussions where he did most of the talking. He'd tell jokes, and they would too. They didn't like my sense of humor, so I gave up and just cooked food for them. Uh, oh, I did buy some makeup at the 99-cent store. You see, I wear makeup at weddings and funerals, but I thought I might try to see if I can cover the scar without just making a mess of my whole face. Tora, don't sit on the modem. Good little kitty cat. Mm, man, I haven't been sleeping through the night because I fall asleep at like 7 or 8. So I'm up in the middle of the night when it's dark outside. So I'm not going out there, even with the porch light. No, thank you. We have at least one bear and one mountain lion and lots of raccoons. They're dangerous too. They carry rabies. No, thank you. Not to mention some scumbag humans who roam the night. Of course, they don't scare me as much as a lion or a bear. Hmm. Come on, stay lit. Anyway, they made a big deal in the Dick universe about Phil buying a brand new sports car for all these thousands of dollars. Not true. He bought a 2-year-old Fiat Spider for 1,400. Somebody bought my copy of the contract because it was signed by Philip K. Dick, but I have an image of it somewhere around here. Yeah, Freeman, the scumbag humans worry you, huh? The mountain lion just wants to be my friend and the bear is just a big sloppy dog? I don't think so. Um, I bought a cup of coffee for a homeless man once because it was cold and raining, and he was just sitting in front of the mini mart to rain and all wrapped in a blanket. And the next day, that same guy had an old pillow he was done with, dirty old pillow, and tossed it into my yard. I'm like, gee, thanks. I get your trash after I bought you coffee. I think it was true. Phil said his contract offer to suppress his novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, was 1 million, but it could have been 3. He didn't want me to know how much money he had, as if I cared. But that was to suppress Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep so they could novelize the Blade Runner movie. Um, but his agent offered to make sure that he never had to work again. If he would quit writing, the agent could make sure that he had a good, solid income for the rest of his life. Never met Art Crumb. I met Art Spiegelman of that famous cartoon, uh, kind of serious comic, Mouse, Maus, in which the mice are Jews in Nazi Germany. Well, Phil Wright, he used to say, wind me up and I go to the typewriter. If he wasn't writing a story or a novel, he was writing humongous 3 and 4 page single spaced letters to people. Art Spiegelman gave Phil one of those coffee table books of, okay, it was a Sunday comic, Flash Gordon. And Spiegelman signed it to Phil. Of course, I've sold that book too. Don, I'm always OCD, although I fight against it now that Mom isn't there hovering over me. Like when I was wiping the kitchen counter, you're doing it wrong. I'd be doing a small area to get everything off. And she'd say, no, you have to do it like this. Swipe, 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 swipe. I'm like, no, I don't do it that way. Or if I was doing something and she said, when will you be finished? I'd say 4 or 5 minutes. And if I wasn't done in 4 minutes, I was a liar because she didn't hear the or 5. And if I said 5 minutes and I was done in 4, I was a liar because it didn't take 5 minutes. And I'm like, she'd stand there with her wristwatch watching the second hand. I'm like, hello, I'm estimating. Oh, I once lived in an apartment where the people would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and vacuum the apartment above me. So I started standing in my bathroom and playing really bad notes on my clarinet. Problem was, it also bothered the guy behind me. I thought that apartment was vacant. But when I did that, they'd stop vacuuming at 2 o'clock in the morning. So anyway, my OCD is mostly learned. But I'm telling you, don't touch my stuff. I don't care if you think it's trash, and I don't care if it is trash. I will toss it out. You leave it alone. Because that is not helpful. Uh, uh, oh, poor Ditch lives next to a drummer. It's time to get those noise canceling headphones, Ditch. You'll never get him to stop. Drummers don't stop. Mom never told me never date a drummer or a Navy sailor for the same reason. Of course, I never had the opportunity. I did date a sailor once, but then he got transferred to Idaho Falls to learn to be a crew member on an atomic submarine. And I'm stuck in California. Yeah, secret to driving a neighbor nuts, use bass, not treble. These houses are kind of close together. Even though my lot is huge, it's mostly behind me, not next to me. Well, the other day, somebody nearby was playing some kind of Spanish music really loud, and it wasn't very good. And it wasn't in the house, it was in a car in their driveway. And after a while, I got tired of it. So I cranked up my computer speakers and played the 1812 Overture with real canon. And by the time my 1812 finished, they had turned off their music. I don't know whether it drowned them out or they just liked the 1812. Yeah, bad Spanish polka. Now, I like some, Spanish music, but this wasn't the good stuff. I guess their friends had a band and they made a homemade, disc from it. Oh, poor ditches in Baltimore with the row houses. Some of those houses actually share one wall, and others are so close together they might as well share a wall. Kind of like the condominium my brother once lived in. They foolishly bought a condo with a homeowner's board, and monthly dues to the homeowners association. Well, one day when I went to visit them, my poor car had a bad muffler. So I was just going real slow. I put in my coat and went through the security gate and made my little left turn to go park in the guest parking. And there were some children playing in the street. So I had to stop and wait for them to get out of the way. And when I pushed the gas to pull into a parking space, my muffler made a bunch of noise. Next thing I know, the homeowners association sends a letter to my brother and his wife about some guest of theirs speeding in the parking lot. So I composed a letter to them, and Steve's wife Betty said, "No, you're being too nice. Do it again." So I did. And I said, I entered and parked, and I was delayed in parking because I had to wait for some children to exit the street where they were playing, which by the way is against their rules. They have a big old grassy park playground right next to the street. Anyway, and then I said, I don't know why those people thought I was feeding, but they were drinking beer. They'd been sitting on their front porch watching me, and I saw one of them stomp over and follow me to see which house I went into. Randy wants to know if I've heard from Rick. He's dead. He died in 99 at age 50. Drank himself to death. Anyway, welcome in, Randy. Rick was a very unhappy man. He was also raised by my mother, his mother. Oh, wow. Poor Rick. He was not exactly a nice guy, although people thought he was. They didn't live with him. He could be very nice, but he could also use people. Oh, Southern Oregon. When he was staying at Granny's house, he was already doomed then. He had cleaned up his act and quit drinking, but when Granny died, he went right back to the booze and drugs. And then he inherited a few thousand from Granny, so he used it to move to Guam. He'd always wanted to live on a tropical island. You met me there, Randy? I'm sorry, I don't remember much about Oregon, except a few evenings spent with Granny. But he got to live on Guam, but his drinking got worse and worse, and he was arrested more than once for drunk driving. And the last time they put him in the hospital because he was in such bad shape with liver failure. No, Randy is not trolling. Don't worry, Ditch. It might have looked like that at first. I'm sorry I dropped it on you so suddenly. I just couldn't think of a soft way to say he died. Anyway, he actually phoned me. He had walked out of the hospital against doctor's orders because he just had to have some booze. And at that point, he had no money, so he stole a bottle of vodka from a liquor store, went into the alley behind the liquor store and drank it and died. Drank a whole bottle, I guess, either a pint or a half pint, but that's all it took. He was so sick. And I tried to convince him to go back to the hospital, but he just had to have some alcohol. Oh, Dawn wants to learn carpentry, woodworking, cabinet furniture, and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, in the meantime, you can at least watch YouTube videos for free. There's lots of carpenters showing things like that. Can't think of the name of a channel off the top of my head, but just search around. No, Rick just blew out his liver. He actually bled to death from his liver. It was horrible. Oh, no, I don't remember being in White City. Oh, Randy, I was visiting my cousin, Greg Lemke, and his wife and children. He had 2 sons. Greg passed away too. I don't remember the exact year, but he was only 60 years old and just suddenly died in his sleep from a heart attack. It wasn't White City, but it was near White City. Granny was in Eagle Point near Medford, right on the border, like where the Amtrak station is, Klamath Falls, not far north of there. Ah, New Yankee Workshop. Yes, Freeman, that's a good one for carpenters. I couldn't think of it. There's H in Workshop, Work SOP. Furniture on the Mend, or FOTM. Don't know that one. I'll have to check it out. Anyway, I'm almost at the 2-hour mark and I'm tired and hungry. Okay. And the cats are just pestering the heck out of me. They don't get to go outside very much because of the weather, so they're really being difficult in the house. Mess with the camera that way. Okay. I have to float my eggs and see if they're still good. You fill a glass with water and gently lower the egg into it and let it go. If it floats, it's no good. If it sinks to the bottom, it's good. And this sell-by date is darned confusing as to when the eggs will still be good. I'm hopping off to ditch. Thank you all for listening. And Randy, but Rick, better place. Oh, the Woodwrights Workshop, Freeman. Yeah, that's a good one. All of you be good. And all that. Thank you all for listening. Gotta keep my fingers. Okay.